Hi everyone, it's Linda from LyndaCreates. Today I have a project called Pine Branch, and it is going to be a free download available on my website, LyndaCreates.com. That's Linda with the Y. I have been doing a lot of drawing and digitizing everything to start getting some images ready for purchase. But this is my freebie pattern. This is the start of it. And what I wanted to do was take you through start to finish how to use these drawings, how to print it, what to print it on, how to prep your fabric, everything like that. So that's what this first video will be about, as well as showing you this uh, pine branch project. So I have it on a smaller 4-inch hoop here, but you'll see that it can be used on a bigger one. This is a drawing, and you can see it's already in a grayed out pattern or grayed out color, so it'll print out nicely as is. So I have been using this Printworks Vanishing fabric transfer for light colors, and you print out through your inkjet printer. You don't use it on a laser jet, just an inkjet printer. What you get are these transfer sheets, and one side has a waxy, shiny look, and the other side has this brownish line down it. What you want to do is whatever way you put it, you load your printer, you want it to print on the waxy looking side. So I'm going to take you onto my computer and show you the drawing and as I print. So this is my computer screen, and you can see there's a drawing. So what you're going to do when you print it on the Printworks paper is you need to flip the art. So when you go, I'm in Adobe Illustrator right now, but when you go to print, whatever way your app sets you up, you want to make sure you go to where it says flip horizontally, and mine is already set. You could basically turn it on. You want it to flip horizontally when it prints. And then you would hit print, and then you'd go ahead and print it. And I've already printed it out. So what you end up getting is a printout where it is reversed. So you can see the words are flipped, and you have this in reverse. Is I cut out the piece that I needed, and I'm going to cut, according to the instructions, you want to cut about 1/8 of an inch away from your artwork. The less you have, the easier it is to remove it. When you rinse it at the end, take a little time. Don't have to be exact, but you also don't need to have any excess there. Also, while I'm doing this, I have my iron warming up on my left. There, I have it on a silicone mat. So here's my artwork. Let me set that aside so it doesn't touch any of the heat. I have just clear shipping tape. I'll explain that in a minute. I usually keep several pieces of 9-inch by 9-inch square 100% cotton fabric to be used for these projects. And the instructions for the Printworks says to iron it on a harder surface, so not your regular ironing board, and you want to use a pillowcase. So to start off, see, I have my silicone mat. I also have my pillowcase, and so I have my silicone mat on my hardwood work table. Don't want my iron to touch the wood, but I do want to have a fabric surface to iron onto. What I'm trying to do is make sure that I'm always on top of the silicone mat when I iron. Okay, and I have it at a cotton setting. So, and I'm going to give it a good iron first, just to make sure it's as smooth as possible. What they recommend on the instructions is to use a lint roller to remove any kind of lint on the fabric before you apply the transfer. I don't have a lint brush. So my makeshift thing has always been to use cheaper packing tape. I just take the tape and use it to remove any lint. If you have a lint brush, by all means, use that. Probably be a lot easier. Okay, so now I have the drawing on this side. So I'm placing this in the center at the angle that I want. So when you iron it down, you put the artwork, the gray artwork, facing towards your fabric where you want it, and then you apply heat. Okay, I'm going to let that cool a bit. Now, see how nicely it transfers? Now that it's cooled, you just want to peel it back. And there's your transfer. And you can see, oh, you can see it right there. Hold on. You can see where the transfer paper material is. It really, that's only the shine. It really isn't that visible. Now you don't notice it. It's just a reflective area. So as you're stitching, it really won't make a big difference where it's located. The difference will be why you want to cut it so tight. The difference will be when you rinse it out. You have less that has to rinse out. But there's no stickiness. It's very thin to stitch through. It really is a great method. If you're transferring to something that can take the heat and is a smooth fabric, I'm going to let that cool a little bit more and then I could hoop it up. So I'm just centering it. And this is a 6-inch hoop. You can use, I think it would fit in a 4-inch as well. And one of the things I highly recommend as you're placing it in your hoop is to tighten it, stretch the fabric out. You want it to be as tight as possible. Okay, so you could hear this. Love that sound. Okay, I'm using 6 strands, and so you want to pull a piece of thread that is about the distance of your arm. You don't want it too much longer than that. Any shorter and you're changing threads all the time. So do about that length. I'm using 6 strands, so there's 2 ways people do it. Sometimes they separate each strand and then bring it back together so that it seems to be really pretty with satin stitches where you're covering a wide area. It looks very smooth rather than stripes of threads. But I'm going to be working on straight stitches, so I can leave it all together as it comes off of the floss, the hank of embroidery floss. So to start off with 6 strands, I'm going to cut the tip of it at an angle. Then I'm going to pinch it between my fingers, as tight as possible, and come in with the eye of the needle. Now, it doesn't always work. But when it does, it's so exciting. Sometimes, you might catch just a few strands at a time, and you just use use a needle puller, this little thing, through the eye of the needle, and you pull the remaining strands in. So you want to get all 6 through your needle, the eye. And this is a crewel needle, Crewel. They're fairly sharp, but they have a larger eye, so I like that. Now, there's also several ways to secure your floss on the first stitch. There's different methods. Some of them will create much cleaner backsides of your finished project, but I'm showing you the quickest, easiest beginner's way. and I'm going to do a quilter's knot. So you have your floss, you hold it down, you wrap it twice, hold that wrap, and then you pull your needle through it. And what you get is a knot. Now, and I also recommend that you cut off the tail end of that before you start, because you don't want a lot of loose tails around on the back of your project. So I'm starting on this branch, and I'm going to do what is called a wrapped back stitch. So I just did about 1/4 of an inch, and I'm coming out another 1/4 inch away. And this is what the back stitch is. You, on the back side, you go further forward, and then you back up. And this is a regular back stitch that I'm doing right now. And I discovered this is a beautiful stitch to do things like flower stems and things like that. Okay, and I'm going to kind of jump across those dots there. So now I'll do the wrapped part of it. Okay, so I ended right here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up, let's see, I'll bring it up here, in the middle of that last back stitch, but to the side of it. So I'm coming up in the middle of that last stitch, and now I'm turning my needle around backwards, so I have the dull end of it. And now I'm just going to literally wrap it. I'm going underneath that next stitch, and what happens is the thread kind of winds around. And I'll wrap it again. Okay. And you see what happens, it takes away the choppiness. You see the breaks right here. You don't see the breaks here because this wrapping made it nice and smooth. But now because I jumped there, I'm just going to end it here. Okay. And now again, I'm going to come up in the middle of this stitch here, halfway in the stitch. I'll come up to start my wrapping, and then the next stitch I'll go in backwards. And the only reason I go in backwards is because I don't necessarily want it to, the point of the needle to catch on anything. And I'm just going to continue down the stitches. And this is called a wrapped back stitch. And I'm ending it going down a little bit wider there. So now you can see how that branch, let me bring it up, how it looks very branch-like. So I took the branch up here and I came back with the wrapping part, which brought me right back to the beginning here. So now I could finish off this branch that goes in this direction. So now I'm going to end that stitch and then finish off a few more branches. And here's something to do to end the stitch. You could tie a knot, but when you get to the end, it generally is easier to stitch underneath your thread. Now you can either catch it like that, and it creates a little knot, but you want to always do it twice, and then again trim it fairly close to the fabric. Okay, so there we go, and I'm just going to do a little more branch here and there, and I'll be back. Here I am working with the green floss, 6 strands at a time, and I'm just going to do some straight stitches to form the pine needles. So I have the dark green areas done, the stitches done. I'm coming in with a lighter shade of green because the tips of these pine branches are going to be a little bit lighter green. You can do it in just brown and green, one shade if you want. I'm just showing you an option of doing it, adding a little bit more color to it if you want. Okay, so just the end branches will be this lighter green. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the other tips of the branches and be back. Okay, to start this next green, I'm going to show you a way to start it without a knot in the back. You pull your needle through some floss on the back of your work and you leave a little tail sticking out. And then you take your needle and you wrap it through the existing floss that's back there, and you do it at least twice, trying to catch that tail as you go, and that will secure it. And then you start stitching, you bring your needle back up to the front where you need to and start stitching just like you normally would. Here's another trick on the back to end your floss without tying a knot. You pull the needle through some existing stitches on the back, and you do it about 2 times, and then you could trim it off and it will stay in place. So there's a pine branch. And again, I kept the light green towards the end of the branches where the needles would be newer, younger, lighter green, and then the darker green further back. Now I'm going to work on my little baby pine cones. This time I'm using 3 strands of embroidery floss. So I'm working on some French knots here. So I'm coming up, wrapping the floss around my needle. You could do it 1, twice, 3 times, and then holding the longer part, the part opposite the needle, you hold that closer to the fabric where you're stitching. Put your needle back down through the same hole that you had come up through, and gently pull the floss through, and at the very last release the part you were holding, and it will create this beautiful French knot that's secure and clean and tidy. I apologize, my other microphone died, so I'm using my backup microphone. I finished the dark bits of the pine cone, so now I'm going in with a lighter shade of brown or tan color. And I am just doing smaller French knots to finish it off. Now, you could actually do just one wrap to make a really petite French knot. And then I'm just going to finish off these other areas. So that is all of the stitching. There's still things you can do if you want to make it more ornate, but that is the basic part of it. So now I'm going to take it out of the hoop and we're going to soak it to remove the Printworks. Let me go get set up to soak it. So I have my stitching done, and before I soak it, I also have a paper plate. I'm going to stretch it, and basically you're breaking up or adding little cracks into the print work so that the water will soak into it and help dissolve it. So that's basically all I'm doing, just pulling it so that there's some cracking in it. And now I have it in the plate. I'm just adding a little water at a time as it soaks in there. And you want to have enough water in there to submerge it. And you have to keep adding water because it soaks it up on the side. So as you're moving the, breaking off the Printworks in the background, the transfer, you are also keeping the water moving. If there is any color bleed, it's not pooling in any one area. And now because you crack all the paper or the Printworks transfer, the water can soak in and get to all these pieces. After you have the majority of it broken off, it's floating around in this water, and so if you just pick it up and start drying it, it will just settle back down. So you want to go take it and rinse it in running water gently, very gently. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I rinsed everything, so it's all wet. So here's my next special thing. This is from just a baking rack from Dollar Tree. And I just, generally what I like to do is set a paper towel on top and then set this down on it. So now it can dry flat. I leave the paper plate underneath to catch anything that might drip. The other thing too, you'll notice the color has not pooled or bled through. So I'm just going to let this sit and dry for a few hours and then come back and show you the next step. This is dried for several hours. Once it's dry, I could come back in. This is an extra step, but I don't mind doing it. Don't necessarily have to do this if you soak it long enough, but I like to scrape off any extra. And then I take a stiff paintbrush, small one, and I just brush along as following the direction of the stitches so I don't stretch them out. And I try to brush out any of the excess Printworks adhesive flakes, and I get it all out to the side, and then I could just dust this off and I'll be right back. So before I put it back into the hoop, I'm going to give it one more good iron, just around the edges. I don't want to iron on top of my embroidery. It tends to give it a flat look. The first thing we're going to do is cut off some of the excess fabric. So when you pull it in, you want to leave about an inch all the way around. You don't have to do it exactly, but I'm just kind of giving it a generous, probably actually about an inch and a half. And next, what we'll do is, let me grab some, so I'm just using regular white thread and the same needle. So now I have a double length of thread because you're going to pull it pretty hard. And you just want to start gathering the edge here. So there's our finished piece. Other things you can do is glue a piece of felt, a 6-inch circle of felt on the back to cover that up. This finishes it off to a nice point that you could just hang this on the wall right now. So I hope you enjoyed that. Please watch for more projects coming. I'm doing drawings and converting them into downloadable files that'll be available on my website for purchase. And this is the free downloadable file for you to make sure that all the files work perfectly. You could print it. I wanted to also use this to show all of the steps to print it, add it to your fabric, stitch it, and then remove it and finish off the hoop. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to sharing more designs and videos with you. So please subscribe to my channel. Check out LyndaCreates.com. That's Lynda with the Y, for other projects that I've done. And I'm having so much fun. I hope you had fun too. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!